I got to say hi to her and, say hi, Arwen, and, Rob was there with me. And it was a sweet moment. I think you hear the hesitation in my voice because, it's the end of the day. It was the end of the day, and, C-section. Super tired. I was super tired. And when Arwen couldn't stay too long, they had to stitch me up, obviously, and that was terrible. I don't know how one gets stitched up after a C-section, but I felt my organs moving around and I lost my breath for a little bit, like I was gasping, and in between gasps I was like, is this normal? And someone in the room said it was normal. So again, I am kind of glad. It made it more traumatic, but I'm glad that I was awake, because obviously if I'm sleeping I can't say anything. I mean, they should be able to read my oxygen levels too, but I'm just glad, y'all. When I did the C-section, there was a hospital shift change, since the day doctor left and the night doctor came in, and I requested her, like the older doctor, instead of the residents. And unfortunately, they did not follow what I had asked as the patient. I found out later that I was bleeding more excessively than I should have been. Rob's mom was very helpful, and she advocated for me, and she said, hey, aren't you guys gonna check on that? They actually kind of had to be pushed a bit, which is unfortunate that someone even had to bring that to their attention. But I was bleeding excessively, and when they checked on my incision, they said that if I continue to bleed excessively, they may have to bring me back in to the surgery, back to the OR, and unstitch and restitch me. And I think it was because I was a first-time mom, I just lost my crap. And I just had an outburst and was like, who did my C-section? Like, did one of you residents do my C-section? And then one girl next to me said that she did. So they pretty much confessed that they didn't listen to what I had asked. I requested the older doctor, the more experienced doctor. The first or second night that we were there, my husband, had gone back to the house to clean and to get the house a little ready, and he's talking to me on the phone, and he's like, I know this might make you upset, but I really feel like God told me that Arwen has Down syndrome. And yes, I'll be honest, I was a little bit irritated. Just more so because of the C-section and just healing, and it just overall mood terrible. So, but I was like, they're drawing blood anyways, because Arwen was a little bit jaundice coming out, so her skin was a little bit on the yellow side. So the bilirubin levels in her liver, the hospital was testing that, and they were putting her under bilirubin lights, where she has to wear like a little mask, like in a tanning bed. We had so much concern and anxiety over that, just like our little baby, like, something's wrong. But yes, they were already drawing blood from her little toes for that. So I was like, they're drawing blood, so they can just test that blood for Down syndrome. And he's like, okay, I will ask them. Rob had to really push the staff once again to give her a test for Down syndrome. And they're just like, yeah, we might have noticed something, but we didn't want to say anything. And he's like, what? Like, why would you guys not want to say anything? Like, you're the hospital, and like you guys should give the most information to your patients, right? And if you guys have any like question as to baby's health, like, that's kind of interesting that you guys aren't, didn't bring this up to me before, because they pretty much confessed like, oh yeah, that was a little bit on our radar, but we didn't want to say anything. And that mindset just blows my mind. But anyways, we did get the test. It's called a FISH test. It stands for something. I will try to put it in link below. And we have a couple of, again, new doctors, genetic doctors, come to the room and look her over. And this was, I want to say, day 2. And they test her muscle tone and, look her over. And I kid you not, they said, based on her muscle tone and just the fact that she's half Asian, we do not think that she has Down syndrome, because there is a overlap of Down syndrome features and Asian features, such as like almond eyes and a flattened nasal bridge. And so they said, based on that and her muscle tone, which they said was not too bad or was pretty good, that she did not have Down syndrome. So here I am, new mom, thinking, okay, that's great, like, she doesn't have Down syndrome. And so sorry already. But so anyways, I was just, my fears were put to rest, no Down syndrome. And Arwen does have some trouble with the car seat test. She failed it multiple times. Now that I mentioned that, she also failed her hearing test 2 or 3 times, and we got a referral to a ENT doctor. But after so many amount of times, they're just like, okay, her heart rate is okay, like, you guys are set to go home. We were there a total of 3 or 4 days. We go home, and then we are there another day or 2, maybe 3, and I get a call, and it is the hospital's genetic counselor, like the head genetic counselor. And she said, yes, we got the results back from the FISH blood test, and Arwen is confirmed positive for mosaic Down syndrome. And I was reeling. I got the call. I was in the living room / kitchen area. My mother-in-law was there, and I just was, choking with emotion. I took the phone and I ran to the bedroom, and my mother-in-law could tell that I was upset. And I think, she tried to go in there with me for a bit and listened in to the first few minutes. But, she was there helping with Arwen, so I appreciated that she was there, and I could kind of listen to everything that the genetic counselor had to say, because she was giving me all this information about right off the bat, most babies with Down syndrome have a congenital heart defect, and that's, quite high, 50%. And she said, you got to see a cardiologist, pediatric cardiologist. You got to see, since she failed her hearing test, you got to see ENT. And she said that the state offers early intervention, so she said I wouldn't wait too long to get early intervention, and so she can be signed up for speech services, occupational therapy, and physical therapy. And she's like, I think she probably said, there might be a wait list, so don't wait too long to look into that too. And, call your local branch, and they'll get an evaluation and determine what she needs, what services. And I think how often too, but that's also dependent on how many therapists I think also are available. But for that matter, there's I think she just needed like once a week for all 3 of those therapies. But obviously overwhelming, lots of information. She was telling me who to call, like her recommendations, and described mosaic Down syndrome to me. That's the first time I heard it described to me. And I was crying, there were tears, but I also had to compose myself and ask her the questions. And I had questions about Down syndrome. I had never met a person with Down syndrome ever in my life. I was almost 30 years old and never met a person with Down syndrome. So it was all news to me. And I just asked her, like, is she gonna drive? Is she gonna get married? Like, is she gonna be able to be independent one day? And she was very calming person, and said that it does depend on the person. And with mosaic Down syndrome, they tend to be higher functioning. I'm pretty sure she told me that. But if you do research it, that's what most sites will tell you, because there is a mix of normal cells in that person with mosaic Down syndrome. So anyway, after I had the conversation with her, I just had to process it. I had to pray. I'm a woman of faith, and I just, prayed to Jesus about, all my feelings, and, feeling frustrated, feeling sad, feeling anxious, and concerned, so many things. And my husband at that moment had just come home from grocery shopping, and I just am so blessed, because he was a rock. He was just like, I'm not concerned, I'm not worried. We're going to weather this together. And I thank God that he had that his spirit was open to hearing God, that Arwen had Down syndrome diagnosis, and that he wasn't afraid, and that he was willing to do what we needed to do for me to also stay at home and be there for her. And with all the appointments and therapies, I did end up, it took up 2, 3, maybe sometimes 4 days a week, like every week, for like a solid 3 months at least. So I'm really glad that he just worked his butt off to make sure that we had a place that was safe, and that I wasn't trying to raise her while working, which my heart goes out to the moms who had to do that. It's, gosh, or is going through that right now. You know, I just pray for grace and I pray for strength for you. And God is able to bring you through. And but just to wrap up this video, and thank you guys for listening, by the way, and hanging in there. This is much longer than I expected it to be, but I didn't want to skip over details really either. So but anyway, I was there with God in the bedroom processing everything, and I don't remember if Rob was still in there with me or not, but I was just still crying out and, you know, grieving. And it's okay to grieve, you know, it's okay to, there's a shock to your system. Like, I thought I was just gonna have like a healthy, typical baby like most moms have, and I didn't. I had a slightly more complex child, you know, and I would come to find out she had a few holes in her heart. She needed open heart surgery. She needed surgery for her ears, and, you know, I thank God that was it. But you know, I was just grieving, and, you know, grieving is totally normal and human. And I just felt like God broke into my thoughts in the midst of my grieving, and he said, and I get emotional every time, he said, who is going to love her? Who is going to love her? And when I heard that, I stopped my complaining and my just, the thoughts stopped racing, and I had this courage and boldness in my spirit, and I said, I will love her. And that was that. And it was like instant download, you know, like God gave me the courage and boldness and love for her so fiercely to say within my spirit, it doesn't matter how many therapies she needs. It doesn't matter how long it takes to get her where she needs to be. It doesn't, if she needs to live with us for the rest of her life, by the grace of God, I'll love her, and we'll do it. Rob and I, we're gonna do it. And so that's where things ended that day. I praise God, you know, hallelujah, that he changed my heart and mind in an instant. And I think it doesn't happen for everyone like that. If it's still like a process, you know, of months or maybe even years of struggle, of grieving, you know, like, I think God still walks with any mom, any parent through that. But anyways, that's how our story ends, with how we found out about Arwen and Down syndrome. And I will love to share on this channel, Mosaic Mountain Folks, on her progress so far, and maybe her open heart surgery experience, and you know, I have 2 other kids, and, you know, how they interact, and I know I learned sign language, just basic sign language, for her to communicate, and she was born right before COVID, so a lot of things happened. But yes, so I hope you all enjoyed listening to this story. Thank you for your ears. And hey, if you have a child with mosaic Down syndrome, shoot me a comment down below. Send me a PM. I hope that this channel will also be a community for other families who have a child with Down syndrome, or even maybe more than one child with Down syndrome, or if you have adopted a child with Down syndrome. You know, let's make a community, and let's be advocates for our kids and spread awareness. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you guys next time.